Recording it. We can start now. We're taking a longer drawn out call to order and public comment time. Making sure we can get, let the public get in.
You don't have anyone online right now.
Did we officially start? I don't know. Okay, Gene, thank you for your email. I didn't reply. I think we weren't having
not on the
the
agenda
agenda
tonight.
tonight,
Yeah.
so I didn't squeeze it into my schedule to.
No problem. It took me
But
a couple
it
days to
looked,
get back
it
to
looked
you.
good.
Look at what we talked about.
Yeah.
Maybe we want to jump on ahead now to the approval of the minutes of August 22nd. But we can still have Kim potentially coming, right?
Yes. Actually didn't get an RSVP from her.
I can text her.
I'll pull it.
Didn't see a typo. I'm gonna need to find my copy to find it again. Yeah, I had it.
You have something to me.
Yeah.
It's. We need an Ethernet cord. I don't know why. I mean, we have a different Wi-Fi, so I can access our files. It's not the guest Wi-Fi. It's been slow lately.
Your hard copy for this effect. It took me a while. To find it real quick if I look at it, but. It's good. I'm so glad I printed it out then. Every time I print something, I feel like, oh, should I really need to print this? Hey, you've had the same one. All right. I think it says not no, not. Right. So just find it quick. So I know there's gonna be a big arrow. No, question mark, what's going on here? But, well, that was in 4.8.
Okay. Whereabouts?
When Jean said that she does know, it should be, she does not know if the select board would approve that proposal. Without additional public outreach. Is that what you think? I think it makes no sense.
My edit was on 3 something. At the tail end of one of the sections, it said Han says a TEP is required, and it just was totally out of context, like. Required for what? So if we can go back and re-listen, or just if we delete that or simplify it, we thought maybe simplify the discussion, I don't know.
I watched it back from the conversation, then when I watched it, I think the way you phrased it was like, so TEPs will be required. It's almost a question. So I think, I think we can either. I said we could simplify it and just say what you discussed it.
But anyway, like just like did you like literally transcribe the entire discussion right there? Because as I read that, I can't go back and say and even understand what I was responding to. John S. Like again states that we're allowed to do events. Gene said the purpose of the TEP said that is the purpose of the TEP process. Concept that TEP will be required for what? But I don't know.
For events. I think the
But
conversation
it's required when the criteria applies, so.
I think the conversation with Gene explaining what the purpose of TEP is, and you were asking if a TEP is required for the TEP level wetlands. And she said, yes, this is the purpose of a TEP, and then you said, so a TEP will be required then.
Well, that's kind of.
And that's why I suggested to you, you sent me a note, I said.
Yeah.
we could just say that Gene and Hans discussed the requirement for a TEP.
That works.
Yes, it helps.
Jim said she's gonna have the time wrong, she's gonna join online.
Great. I might not make that edit real time, but well. Are you guys all good at with that edit? Post behind the scenes.
And then on 3.5.
Yep.
Not like the last sentence. Rebecca, she thought that it was an accessory use that does not infringe upon public. Happens it should be illegal, as long as it does not infringe upon public access.
Now we're back to what she said.
Hey folks, sorry for 6:30 in my calendar. I'm just gonna relocate to a place where the jets are not so loud.
Out of Williston.
It's just a flat here going by.
Middlebury might work.
Online deposition last week. Hoping for by a court reporter, couldn't hear what was going on, yes.
I think. Yeah, it's unclear, right? So I think it's that she thought that the proposal for celebrations. It's not.
Was acceptable or, you know, in line with the easement as long as it did not infringe upon public access.
That's the important part, where it says that does not infringe, he wanted to say, as long as it does not infringe.
Right, right.
As long as it does not infringe.
I mean, this is just nothing but, never mind.
That's
Could
why,
public
that's,
use ever infringe upon the licensee's ability to operate? Like, what if, like, what if the public decided to hold, like a rally, 500 people?
You mean like if the town decided, I mean,
No,
Or random
public, like
public,
a random organized public event of like 500 people decided to show up to protest some cause.
Or dance with birds, or do something like it was just
Yeah,
impromptu,
anything.
everybody's showing up, I don't know, maybe, you're right. We'll have to talk about that one next month.
Why do you have to figure these things out?
Could public use ever infringe upon something else, or public use like assume that it doesn't?
They can, right, but that's when. No, I'm not gonna, sorry, I wanna go there, but I'm
It's
gonna
just
keep
a
us on our time here and our agenda,
Yes,
so it's
that's-
5:40 and we wanna move on to the 10. Oh, we have a proposal to,
so I'll make a motion that. Including all of the edits which are just recently discussed, we adopt amended minutes with. Knowing that Andrew's gonna add some more language after the fact, which we can then discuss next time.
Second.
wait. All in favor, please say aye. Tim? Opposed?
Jim just texted me and she's not hearing it well, so she's gonna be down here in 2 minutes, she lives just around the corner.
Okay.
The jets are gone now. Okay, so now we can move to Catamount comprehensive trail plan. Or should we rewrite? I don't know if we do that rearrangement and without John, do we want?
I know, I was gonna say,
Something?
I'm
I'll
gonna
do
go,
that, I'm gonna go call, I'll call
Yeah.
him and sit going.
because otherwise it's the same mammoth document. That we looked at last month, and I looked at the link to the website, and that's a very extensive explanation too, so,
Seems like it required that John should be here for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So are we doing a different agenda?
Are we checking in with John to see if he's coming
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Though we,
But you have to get there.
And we could discuss the ARPA, fund discussion. If you'd like. I do know that there are family center projects that, you know,
John will want to be involved in.
I assume, so, yeah, Hans, you can speak to that.
In addition to what was originally in there?
Yeah, I think, with the trail projects, just talking at the top of John. There's some priority that could be clarified.
Yeah.
In that memo about. Yeah. For example, the trails. Proposal had that phase one, so maybe stating in that memo, phase one as a priority. For family center. The town could help support that, that's what.
But I guess I would just, having been in these conversations, I just hesitate to put too big a number on. It's gonna be like, well, if their first priority is $300,000, we don't have that kind of money, so no. And we're going to something else, right? So there's, yeah, I think we've been kicking around and I can't say that even. I would say that there's been like a proposal of $100,000 or less. So I think it's just a matter of we didn't want to say,
That was.
we're gonna tell the family center, or we're gonna tell the committee that they should do signs instead of bird things, you know, we didn't want to say.
And your sense was they were, what was 100,000?
And that would be upper limit, I would say.
This, your sense is the select board upper limit for an ARPA funded project for the outdoor center would be $100,000.
However,
Okay.
that
may not
carries
be
is
that
very
much, so.
comfortable, if you want.
Yeah.
This one,
I'm obviously.
but you can wheel around,
Yeah.
you don't have
I know you're right.
All right.
Whatever.
I'll just. All right. We dabbled into the ARPA discussion, but I feel like we can leave it now, it's just getting more timing for the. The trail plan first, when you get a moment, settle in,
No, I'm good.
you're good?
Yes, I'm happy to share, you can probably put up the quick exactly. If you just go to catamount.org. You can pull up the news. Before and after maps, without any of the orange or purple, so that it's just purely to look at. We announced everything, we sent it out in our newsletter, which goes out to about 5,500 people, on our Facebook page also, and the survey is live now. So all that is, and we've had a few responses. Nobody from Williston. That was one piece that we did, we wanted to gather where they live. Just to see.
Yeah.
But from surrounding town, so. So it was informative to see that. So far, nobody from Williston. And if you scroll down and you can see so that's the before one. And one of the points that we tried to make was that there's not a huge lot of amount of change. Especially on the Greek Hill side.
Don't put this in the minutes, Andrew. My husband and I had fun with this. I felt it was one of those, what's different between you two?
I was.
Well, maybe the line's different. No, it's not.
Good.
My differences.
It's funny, the feedback we got here was, hey, let's make it simpler. And then one of the people who responded to the survey was like, how come you took the colors away? So there's a balance of satisfying and not satisfying.
Well, we found there was like a narrative, a written narrative. And I don't remember now if it was in the survey or in this part, but that was really helpful. We were trying to make these trails accessible. Here's the trails that are effective. We're trying to do this.
It's in this.
Okay, yeah, he found that much more accessible.
Yeah, if you know the trail
If you
names
know the
and where you're
trails, right,
going,
yeah,
yes, it's helpful. And so, I would imagine that most of you will fill out the survey if you know the
At
trails.
least most of them.
So are there any questions or concerns about the plans and stuff? I mean, you obviously went through the details in it too, so you've seen.
Yeah, I didn't go into detail. I just made fun of the picture. mean, I think our. Boy, it's been what, 2 weeks, I can't remember anything, usually we're a month apart, but so last time we kind of. Took a break to say we wanted more input, or is that where we left it, or we had ideas about wanting more input?
Right, we were interested in the survey. We were like, we were looking to see more, it's maybe more public input and read the surveys. Looks like you suggested that. Yeah, and I guess it would be good to refresh on what our timing is and what our, like, so once we're generating our comments and then we're going to move this forward to the, that as proposed or amended to the select board. And then the next step after that is then it goes to, once it's approved by the select board, then it goes to the land trust and the housing. Conservation board.
And I think we talked about doing like public outreach throughout the process, like, or at least like education and not like gathering feedback after this.
And not to repeat what was in the meeting minutes from last month, which we just approved. But I read your point, at the tail end of the meeting minutes, make sure it's clear. Whether the plan's already done
Yeah.
and their input won't affect change, right?
Yeah.
So the public outreach part. So I think that, Gina, was kind of my sense at the tail end of last meeting, we were wrestling with like. We did public outreach 3 months in January, there was survey data that was distributed, I think, to people to review. That public outreach was done. And we're at the point of like moving forward, so when we talk about additional public outreach, was that. As part of the implementation, or is that something that the group felt strongly got done, which would be like redoing another public outreach? Because it was done last winter.
Or it could just be education, like we went through this process and here's the
Right.
product of it, and you can walk the trails, or we can put this map up and yay, look at all of this change so that nobody's like confused or will feel served by it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going full circle on full, but we're gonna wait and do all that outreach, oh, that's gonna take too long, we're not gonna do a lot of research. So I think we had to where you are too,
Yeah.
that's like,
Yeah.
that's educational, not in the path of the decision.
One key point too is to remind ourselves that all of this can be amended. And we met with the planning department last week. They talked about how they have, permits they're going through their. We don't want to have that. But no decision is so final that we can't adjust. And that this is also going to take quite a while to implement. And that if we go through one project and we're like, wow, that one didn't come out the way we wanted it, we can adjust to the next. So we're looking at 15. It's going to be a slow process, slow change. Change.
Could we, just recap the public outreach that you've done in a way that Andy can capture in the minutes so that I'll remember it next time? So you started with the survey on like goals and everything, right?
Last year, I'm sorry, yeah, even it was last year, right around this time, we started, putting out a survey. To the public about our overall goal. And so that folks could see what types of changes we were considering. And then we had 3 public meetings, January, February, March. And people were, people came and showed up online and we presented these ideas and talked about potential changes. What, we were looking at maps and being like, okay, this trail is probably too steep, this one we have to work on. So there was some level of what we have presented now. And then after that process, we spent the rest of the spring, summer, and into the fall, well, not in the fall, but spring and summer, being out on the line and going and looking at all of these things, talking with the people who built them to see what their hopes and dreams are for it. And then we're able to come up with it. And then now we're in the process of confirming that our goals were good and that our planning was solid.
you have a sense of the difference of like the public versus members, or was it mainly members? Who did you?
Well, we've had 7 responses so far.
What about the one? that
The
you-
one before?
Yeah,
That was, again, it was a mix of folks who are, because walkers don't have to join, they often aren't members.
Mm.
But they're on the mail.
So they're on the mailing list and so they're part of it, and so there's, I wouldn't say they're all interested parties, at the very least, I think that's the most important factor, I think is.
The surveys into all of those groups. Members and non-members, I mean, plus,
Yeah.
3 public are the ones. And then field based, and like member check. With like people who might, like folks that were.
We reached out directly, I mean, Hans was one, somebody who took a lot of, put a lot of time in there, Lucy and Jim, spent a lot of time with them. So. Get and I mean, and even their kids too. Anybody who had input on the trail, not just themselves. And that included our manager. If we wanted to get the perspectives of, how it is looking, how's the maintenance go on this? How's the cleaning go? If there are water problems that are causing sort of the camping, all the, pieces and nuts and bolts that we do all, but we try to really do job that really good.
are we feeling good in our discussion here?
I was just noticing that the agenda on the website, the times were not what I intended them to be.
Oh, which is
for the
okay where I
balance.
went. And that one.
Does that say,
We might be
does that say
operating under that.
5:55?
Mhm. For ARPA.
Yeah, I don't know if we need that long to discuss ARPA.
Okay.
But I'd let you kind of define.
It does feel like an hour for the ARPA. It seems plenty if we have just a few more, and it feels like we're rounding up here.
What is the, not to like. Change the agenda discussion, but maybe this informed it, are we voting on sending this, and like this current plan to the select board for consideration, is that the next step?
Yes.
In the select board, what are we actually, what will I actually be improving?
For Eric to sign the Act 50 permit application.
Well, I would say that's not actually what we're doing. We're approving the presentation of the plan to the select board.
Yes, but I'm.
Oh, well, no, sorry, I'm sorry, no,
no.
what I meant was, the select board is approving this plan to be presented to the state. The state is going to have a lot of adjustments.
Yes.
That then we'll have to come back and be like, okay, this is now what the state is going to allow us to do.
Mhm.
Are we okay with that? And then the signing off for Eric.
Right, that's it. Well. Eric will sign the permit application before it goes to the state. And then,
But even
And then-
during that process, there will be, we're not, the
Yes.
Act 250 process itself.
Right.
Of us applying for it is going to bring in experts. And-
yes, and there will be iterations of that plan as you go through the permitting process and. They will probably change when permits do over time, there are conditions that are set on them. That will be reflected in this committee and what I'm saying,
Right.
and it's not like this committee won't ever see it again. It's more a recommendation that this is the right path forward and the family center should continue in that permitting process with the city.
And when the state is, when there's actually like a permit to sign, there'll probably be another vote with the select board. We're fine with that. But my experience with the state has been that, the plans get better, they don't get worse.
No, I'm just, because when you get there, I'm just gonna go, gee, and, I just wanna make sure I know what I'm nodding my head to, which, and I can just say right now, as a committee member, I can say that I'm not a trail expert, I'm comfortable that the trail experts have done the plan, that the goals are solid and in line with the forest plan, and that the community, particularly the community who uses it, but hopefully, if all the community has had an opportunity to weigh in. That's probably what I'd be comfortable saying with that, what you're looking, as a committee member here, and a committee member there, that's probably what I would be comfortable saying, if that's what the committee's recommendation, or if I don't want to say that. I shouldn't be speaking as a solo committee member here at the select board.
I think that's good perspective though, because that like. We would wanna have more discussion if we didn't think it was.
Right,
we were gonna
yes.
have a representative,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So should we, do we need a motion? I make a motion that we approve the recommendation that it goes to the select board and that's.
I'll second, but then I have another question.
And then
Let's go into discussion,
Robert's rule.
so has this ever just been put out on Front Porch Forum or on the Observer or something that's not accessible to people who use the,
That was my question too, like where was it announced?
right,
To go
for
to?
people?
It was announced on that Facebook page that we discussed earlier, the Catamount Community Forest Facebook page. A link to the plan was put there. I believe there was an Observer article, did you guys write one?
We wrote, Shauna, one of our board members, wrote, an op-ed.
Yeah,
about,
okay.
About the generalities of the plan, not about this
Specific, but
we're happy to send it to the Observer and,
Is it not on Front Porch Forum? I feel like I have like a vague memory, like,
I thought it was.
I do too.
Yeah.
Because it was back in the winter time.
Yeah, it was like,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that part of it definitely was on this, yeah, then
Yeah.
this, you know, more
I think you were
finalized plan.
asking about the original.
Yeah.
the
Oh, the
first
original,
time.
yes,
but-
absolutely, yes. And that was in the Observer too, and then we talked about, then Sean's article more recently was talking about, you know, what these goals were and why.
I mean, the most you can do with the Observer is that they're not gonna print.
Right.
What we've seen was too big, you know, in
Yeah.
16-page paper, so. What we've done with other communities, put links to things, but then again, I'm not sure reading it online, you go right to them down, so, you know, so that's your.
Well, I mean, you have to assume some level of responsibility from the public too. If they see something in Observer that they're changing the trails and that this process is going on, they can figure out how to get to the,
Yeah,
to the
because
website.
that
or Facebook
site,
page.
website page that you showed us, that's on the Outdoor Family Center site too.
And that's public,
Yes, and you can refer people to there, you know,
which is what we try to do, right? Every time we promote it, we're like, go here for all of these there,
right?
because it's overwhelming, you know, to like put out a 16-page
Oh, yeah.
letter.
Right.
And people won't read it.
Right.
Seems like a cavalcade of outreach to me, but you know, like on all the fronts.
I mean, I don't know that there's any, you know, problem with that, you know.
No, I think it's great.
And we have to do that, and you're right, you know, people are, they've been informed, they have a chance. That's really all that we can do. We can't, you know, we can't drag anybody and be like, fill out this survey.
Look at these two pictures and tell me how they're different.
Where's Waldo?
I mean, I think that the Observer, like on the front. Back to the front page often has like sort of announcements or short little what's going on in town, like maybe we get something put in there, I don't know how you think that, but
So
something in there.
Jason started with the.
It takes me,
Yeah.
very supportive.
Yeah, and then. Something on the, something. On some push forum and call it a day. I mean, if you're only having
Right.
a limited amount of input from people who are really invested, then clearly you're on the right track. So people aren't, you know, yelling at you, it must be pretty good, but it would be good to just check that. And I'm not gonna hold up this vote for that, I think we can do it.
Okay. And then when it is posted for the select board meeting discussion, then it gives another chance for the general public to.
Right,
I mean, in this meeting, it's, you know, public site.
right, it's good, yeah.
All right, so we have a second, a motion and a second, so now we go ahead and vote. Okay. All right, let's all in favor for moving the current iteration of the comprehensive fit plan forward for presentation to the select board. Please say aye.
Hi,
Aye. And you're abstaining.
I'm abstaining.
I'm speaking.
yeah.
It's to avoid any possible.
You need to.
Conflict of interest.
All right. Great. Well, moving along then. We are on to, that seems exciting, successful. There we go. Woohoo.
Thank you.
And now the ARPA fund discussion memo. Where we have, this was good to see this memo again. We spent time last year talking about the funding suggestion, we did it about a year ago exactly. But now, we're gonna be a little bit more solidifying what we feel this year.
Does anyone want a paper copy of this too? I can not take it if you want.
If it's easy, but I also
Very-
just open it on my phone.
Anyone else?
I have one. already.
We already cut down our tree.
It's worse, I printed that much of my time.
In your electric.
In my electric car, still.
Getting out there idling before.
Just stay cool.
I kind of chuckled that we have priority 1, 2, or 3, and yet we have 3 1s. And it's just infuriating there, like,
3 number ones, that makes sense.
they're all priority, like, no. What is the most priority? Utmost priority.
Amazing.
I'll ask you a question. ARPA funds, how much money you Andrew and Dean, how much money is sitting in a pot? And how many estimates are looking for?
What is the deadline?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, $1.1 million, that has not been assigned.
For the town.
Yes. We haven't already given away. We've spent a lot of time rank ordering things. We've given a pot of that money away, I can't remember how much. And then there was probably a group of about 8 projects that we have to spend the rest of the year. And since this was done quite a while ago and several of the contestants gave us things like this, somewhere between $5,000 and $1 million. So we decided, we really needed everybody to go back and take the sharp pencil and ensure that they really go right.
So we are within one of the 8.
And 1.1 is the remaining.
I can't remember if we've given that includes the 3 this time or not. But
And what is the timeline? Or when do you, is it, you have to give it back if you don't spend it?
It's the October 1st meeting, and so, this committee doesn't meet again before, well. The timeline for the ARPA funds to be allocated.
Mhm.
So they
Just awesome.
did
There's a
something,
deadline.
no, not anymore, they put it,
Okay.
yeah, they rolled, the town has rolled it into a community projects fund, so the deadline went away. But there's a lot of people pounding the door for the money, so.
The October 1 meeting is the select board meeting that Eric was asking with. Paris for, to give us the rest of this meeting to finalize this list.
Okay, so we need this is the ask at the end of tonight.
Yes. Yeah, and the way Eric explained to me, it doesn't need to be a single ask. It can be a list of projects that the committee is interested in. And that, as he kind of suggested, that those can be of varying size.
And the select board is making this decision like that, and do you have a sense of is all of you gonna get something, or do you think it's gonna be the most compelling?
I don't know that all 8 would get something, but the intent, I think, is everybody gets something.
Yeah.
Like the
But
village and food shop ask for money, you guys ask for money, the your committee, the other committee.
Parks and Rec?
No, how about you? It must be your committee.
Oh.
Yeah, I can never remember the name of that one.
Yeah.
Oh, so
They've asked for money.
it isn't necessarily just town committees, as you mentioned, the food show.
Correct.
What you is going on.
Yeah, and it's money, there's also money for the bridge that's falling apart in Industrial Avenue, we're looking for money for that, so it's really a big pot of people asking for money.
Yeah,
And they
and-
put in for the bridge out there that's falling apart.
Yes, that's
Okay,
on the list too.
that's covered too. All right.
So if everything was equal, we all get 137,000.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. I think Bruce has already locked up about $500,000. I shouldn't say that in a public meeting, I don't know for sure, but he's made a compelling case.
So we,
So if I had an opinion, I'd go for low hanging fruit rather than giant projects, because if somebody's already unofficially locked up $500,000 out of 1.1.
Right.
You know, if you ask for Both have parking lots and, so many thousands for invasives and signage to help people using trails in their current form. And so on, and you ended up asking for $50,000 rather than not saying trail improvement project isn't worthwhile, but it's a components project, and so do we get more community bang for our buck by doing like small to mid-sized things?
The trail improvement can be scaled too, right? Like you could do. Just like invasive treatment could be scaled, like you could have. Tens of thousands for invasives and tens of thousands for trails, or even go smaller too, and fund one.
Right.
But I don't know the timing of when do we have to spend the money, like is the Act 250 permit,
Right.
the date's fine?
Yeah.
So like this could fund some of the first. Steps if when the Act 250 permit, I mean, there's some of them.
So, we actually put in a Boric grant last year for, that initial trail plan that we talked about. And did a budget for that, so that included the, sort of area and around the trail hub. Elbow falls into the river, which is a project that the town has money set aside to do. For five of the 11. So we have a budget for that entire piece, and
Which must be some of the most heavily accessed trails, right? Because they're like,
when they're open.
they're like the closest to the parking.
Yeah, and it's the best way in, really, with the gravel road out to the power line is a gravel road. And it's scary for some people and not very pleasant.
Right, and that's like a good,
And it gets you very deep, and the 3 rivers will get you very deep into the network. All that much drier. So, but the greater piece though is that we're likely to apply for grants for that work and be able to get them. We often need a matching grant though, or like a portion of it to make it happen. So I wouldn't say that like, the $175,000 bill that we put forth for this big project would be what we would ask for. However, a 20% match for that would be awesome, because that would show that we already have that ready to go, so that when we go to the, the level of anything we have some. So, and then we're also not putting the full burden on the town. The town is supporting us doing other work, and
Okay.
we're both putting in something.
So for my own clarity, then you got the big trail project, the Act 250 and all that. Do these other ones require the Act 250?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but
so
the timing you said was not a problem, so if it takes a little bit of time to get the permit,
Okay,
then we can still use.
so you can't do some modest sized repair independently of the Act 250.
No,
And if I can just read,
we would have done it already.
Yeah, I know.
read just the way,
There's a lot of critique to that.
the way to think about what you said, the big Act 250 project, it's a bundle.
Right.
There's probably
Right.
like 30 projects
Yes.
inside of that. And so we were talking about like 3 of the 30 projects, which were prioritized to the first. Were 175 and, maybe grants and this hard money request could be. Like seed money to get that one.
Sure.
Like 1, 2, 3, and 30.
Okay, so I understand that better now.
What is the status of the Boric grant that was?
We were denied on that one. We applied for 2, we shouldn't have. I think in some ways that would be.
Right, because then you got the permit.
We got the funding, yes. So
Did they give you any indication that they would
they wanted us to reapply.
reapply? Okay.
Yeah,
That's
and they gave
fine.
us some, they actually wanted us to break the project up. Yeah, sorry. Some of the commissioners wanted us to break up the project and another couple were like, it's a good idea to do it all together. So
It's
not
also
clear
when
feedback.
Viewers disagree.
I think that the fact that we were 11th out of 10. So we were pretty close. So. And the fact that we did the application already, a lot of the work is done.
Right.
And the town has money set aside to repair the Rivers Trail.
The bridges, I believe, are the only thing the money is set aside for, and I don't know that it's set aside enough for what we're having. As, you know, the money that was set aside was a few years ago, and the costs have gone up.
Not gonna lose as much.
There's no reason why not. I mean, you know, if we're investing into this project.
Right.
The capital fund for forests, that's eventually. To use it, this committee knows to recommend with a select board. There's that, and there's the stewardship fund. Two separate, I believe.
Yeah.
And the VORC grant, does it have restrictions on match? But it's
Work grant has no match.
no match requirement.
Um, but, many of the other ones do, and if we, you know, if we can't get everything from Lorax, then we're gonna.
Right.
And we may apply for other grants anyway. For the job.
The reason I'm asking is that a lot of times when I apply for federal projects that require match, it has to be non-federal match, which I think the art.
Oh, so we'd be circling back on that. Okay, we have to be careful with the federal one.
Yeah, depending on who you're applying to.
Okay.
I think it's not federal
Not
anymore.
anymore,
because
but I
we
know,
took
right,
it
pulled
out.
it out, yeah.
You
It's town money now.
Lots of it, yeah. I have to say, and I can't follow everything you guys talk about, but I do, it's just from a layman's point of view, it feels compelling to say, we have this project, it's our top priority, it's the first thing we want to do, it's heavily used, the town's already set aside the money for the bridges, we're going for grants to do this project, it would be great to have a 20% match. That would feel.
Or to jumpstart it, like even if you don't use the word.
Well, I like the match,
You
you know,
do?
I do like the match, because it feels like you're saying, like, we're committed to finding more money.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
really,
Mm.
everybody.
We can't really start the project with
Yeah,
the match.
right, you can't just start like. But it would, I mean, it just feels like, I think everybody at this point has dealt with a grant, and they know that when you have a match in your hand, it's tough to make it.
Or like, maybe the word is like leverage. Or like something, trying to think of like,
So it doesn't have to be,
so that you're not like saying, oh, we're gonna hold on to it and then count it towards this specific.
If the
grant
match isn't needed,
application.
or some
Like-
other use of the money to get. to
Well,
that.
I'm just thinking, like, what if the select board says, yeah, you can use this as match, and you apply for a grant, and then you don't get it?
I think it's pretty easy to come back and say,
We're just
it
gonna.
didn't work out, but can we use it for this?
Yeah.
But no, we want the money back. I don't think that would happen, but it would be a compelling, would be important now to, it's strong place to get the money in the first place.
I would also look at invasive tree, we haven't. When we had Ethan around more, I feel like we talked, we're still thinking about the invasive, they just,
That's one that's been trying to get on the select board, and honestly, I think it's just been pushed off.
they're not
It's-
exciting.
Well, I
love
think it's just, the agenda is that busy.
Yeah,
I'm a buck for
And
it.
I've been
I'm working on
frequently
something.
checking in with Eric. And it's just, it hasn't been on their agenda yet.
And the agenda topic is, we were trying to spend some money to get an invasive
Correct.
treatment plan through.
There's $3,000 from the stewardship
Yeah.
fund to get Bob Hines
Mhm.
out to do the plan for invasives.
Yeah.
Plan would take. Maybe someone else in the room knows when this end of season, can you know when the latest you could do that is?
Well, I mean, it's like different for different years, if you're worried about poison parsnip and then it has passed.
Everything I read says that you want to do it about this time of year, though, right? And if you're gonna cut things down and
Well, yeah, I mean, you
Three
could like,
months.
it depends like what you're doing, which.
It's 3,000, but I thought that Ethan thought that we needed 50,000 for the next,
Over 10
10
years.
years.
So it's five.
so it's 3,000 enough,
That's
Well, was it
just a
just to make a
plan.
plan?
That's just a
3,000 to make a plan.
And then the plan will tell us how much you have to spend, what we should do, and you can guess the gaps.
See, the 50,000 over 10 years says to control the invasives properly, so you're spending about $5,000 a year to do actual cutting brand, whatever.
Rewriting.
It's for 15,000, so 15 plus, the free's already in the road with other things, so, yeah, the 3 years worth.
3 years worth of.
I like it. I mean, that's always been a priority for us in the committee. In the basic treatment. That's what's enough.
And to be clear too, so you understand, I'm going to take these. I'm going to take these comments and summarize them and then I'll get the select board and just explain that these are the updates that they've added. We're unfortunate, the timeline is what it is, but
What about parking lot? Is that important?
I think it is because it affects drainage into some of the wood trace and the other things, and it is, sort of like our way in.
And is that on your plate versus the town's plate?
That's town.
So that's something the town, and we don't have any grants in the works for that.
I don't know that it's like emergent as a problem, but talking to Jim, he said that basically all of the work that they've done is, most of the fines and everything have gone away at this point. And where if we don't do something soon, we probably will have a larger process there.
And it looks like it was outlined to do every 5 years in the
There's definitely been about it.
plan.
Oh, is it?
Now I'm looking at
I don't
you. You
remember.
were planning in 2018, don't you remember?
I don't think it's been done since the land was acquired, No.
That's correct,
yeah,
yeah,
and so that would be now going 6 years.
right, yeah. But-
And so it says that the estimate in 2018,
Milestones.
Funny,
so it says the estimate was 12,000 in 2018, it's 25,000 now, probably.
Yeah.
But that is not, CLFC expense, correct?
It's not supposed to be.
Yeah,
So is it appropriate for it to be?
Yeah.
Well, I think as a
as a
committee, we
yeah.
want to be
Oh.
thinking about things that are not the
Yeah.
CRC expenses.
Yeah, we don't
Because-
necessarily want to go out and write a grant for the parking lot doing that.
Right.
You want to support the parking lot though, because it would buy it.
Yeah, so invasives and the parking lot are the 10. Nothing to do with CLC, and then the trails. I guess. The money. Would be given to CLC to do the work, or I don't know how that works.
Well, I mean, it goes to the project. It's not necessarily going to us, and it's to support where, we might be buying materials with it, or renting teams or.
Yeah, who's getting, like, is the committee like, when we ask for these ARPA funds, who's the recipient of it, the town or the committee? Our committee would be. Our committee would get this money into our
Town
capital.
already has it.
The town already has it, but
Okay,
it's
so
given that our
it's shifting
committee's
into this.
capital fund. To then use, that's who's, like, the committee's requesting this money.
It seems like invasives and the parking lot are in the needs, but are gonna get worse quickly if not addressed.
And it seems like it's hard to get them addressed
Yeah.
in other ways.
And you would, this is a question for staff. Isn't this just something public work should be doing? Parking lot,
parking lot.
maintaining a parking lot for town car?
It seems less expensive to do it that way. Rather than, I'm sure that was a contractor that they got a quote from, not.
So now Bruce, we have 5, 10, so just.
Exactly.
We get help from Public Works on maintaining all the other parking lots in, like, for example, soccer field parking lot is maintained by building and grounds and Public Works. I don't know what the history is there, if that's been discussed with Public Works.
They take care of that.
Right. Yeah. I think that, the memo obviously still suggests help from them, right, for implementation. Yeah,
Would it be appropriate if we asked you to See if
Yes.
this is on public works and work plan rather than our.
Write a memo to
Our
put it on.
Yeah, right.
I don't think it's on their work plan. But I could ask too, if that's something that can be added, that they can help with, maybe that also would help the price. of the project.
Well, anyway, my question is, why isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
but, you know, we don't have to go ask them, but
If they would help.
Parks and Rec doesn't have to go ask them to fix other parking lots, so. But I'm not sure about the trails, but
Well, that's what I'm with the other country parts. They. If they like mental models, parking models.
Is this gravel a higher level of maintenance than? The other parking lots?
Is this lot beholden to the Act 250 permit because it's the killing it?
I don't think so. But I'd have to ask the state to see what, I think this is a maintenance thing and not a material change. That's where things go to, ultimately, you gotta get from that. But if we were to expand the parking lot or, you know, do something along those lines, then I think.
I like how. the way that it makes sounds and then-
Yeah, it seems like asking, you know, we have this special pot of money, like. During ask for that, where it's routine maintenance, shouldn't really come out. You know?
Yeah. And it deletes, if we're asking for the parking lot and basically trails, it deletes our ask.
Mhm.
Well, the good news is, we're talking about all of the priority one things. That was on this before, so we've started that next, like, we agree that all of the priority one. Are still priority one. The next one.
But parking lot might. Is that all instead of just a different agenda item
Yeah.
to see if we can move the parking lot?
Yeah, I agree, that's.
Total parking lot maintenance could potentially be moved to the rest of. The people that take care of parking lots in town.
Yeah, I can't imagine they would give us money into our capital fund and then we'd have to arrange paying for somebody to bring gravel. Like, just put it into the bank account of the people that are gonna do it. This would be public works, I'm assuming.
I don't think. I don't know, Andrea, I assume how this is gonna work, Andrew, is because this is how it's worked with other departments, is they're gonna take all these notes and figure out. And just present it to the select board that way, right? At
Yes,
some point, so you can talk to some of these things. Right. Like, let's take care of them.
Right, we could, you could also
We'll be
put that
there,
out
we'll be
there.
there,
Perfect.
I'm like actively looking for, I have like months of minutes. I'm trying to see like,
Phone.
yeah, like what are decision making around that one.
So it's still a priority one, it's just that we kind of all question it, is that. Would that be this committee's responsibility to figure out how to pay for something?
I would hate, I guess there's also the sheep barn that is always like sort of thrown around in the back there. That's $100,000. We could take care of that completely and be done with it. We don't have to worry about the sheep barn anymore.
Well, that's
I don't
just,
know that
that's
you
just.
would
to
not have to
secure-
worry about the sheep farm.
You're saying
That's just to
That's the
secure
word.
it. That's just to make
to
sure it
make it
doesn't,
secure and stable.
yeah, make sure it doesn't fall over. That's all that is.
Are we
Let's see
worried
if
about
the-
that? Or
if it
I
does-
am
about
totally
that?
worried.
I thought that's something that that the committee worries about.
Right,
which
right.
That used to keep Jeff up at night, the sheep barn. That was.
I call it the donkey barn, it's spread enough, I'll live there for so long.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why I was calling the sheep farm.
Cause was it originally, like,
Right, Fred, not the last resident.
Inhabited,
And they,
yeah. where are they now?
Fred, not-
Oh, mm.
they are in the ground.
Did they get moved? Or did they get moved now?
Do we want to talk about this later? And keep going with our agenda, our plan here.
So we have like something like $35,000 in the year 20% match, right? You said 175 or something. Yeah. And then we said maybe 15 for invasive treatments, and then we had a parking lot discussion about whether that should be on our list at all, but it's important. So we're only up to 27 plus 27, 54-ish, and the sheep barn, as long as you can make, I don't think I want to get into sheep barn if you guys have been heavily into it, but it would be a.
Not heavily into it. Always think about it, throw it out there and be like, oh, there's that barn that we're supposed to do something about.
Yeah.
And then hide under the table about it. So.
I think that's the best approach.
Okay, all right. So that's that.
And have somebody, if on the receiving end of it, I would need a lot more information there. The sushi bar is gonna fall down.
Well, you do, because I
That's-
guess
that's
we're
exactly what
we're
I'm saying.
obligated to keep it up. That was
Ah,
my understanding.
Yeah, because it's in
Yeah.
a store.
Yes, and so you can't let it fall down.
oh,
If it was privately owned, you could let it fall down, but
well,
it's not.
and we should be all on the capital plan, though, right? Sounds obligated to keep it up. It better be, the capital plan to start putting money aside for it.
I'm not are you sure that's the case? Because I remember the historic study was done on it, but I didn't think there was an obligation.
I thought, when I
But I
joined
could be
this,
wrong.
I've only been in this group. One of the earliest thing was they had this study done with
Yeah.
fixing it, and should we actually put an elevator in it and turn it into a, a recreational center and this and that, and we kind of voted that down, but it was discussed, what happens if you just let it fall down? I said, no, it's a historic building, you can't let it fall down.
I think that's accurate.
I thought with discussions with Matt, we kind of had the like, if it falls down, it falls down.
Yeah,
I
don't
That'd be
think
important to find out.
yeah.
I can't speak for that at this point. I don't know. I know there's been conversations in the past and I do recall similar things to read with the conversation about improving it.
Yes.
I
Improving.
don't know what our requirements are.
And it is used, and if it, like any bond you see on the side of the road, where you get a heavy snow load and it starts to do this. Well, then it becomes unusable for what it's used for today, with storing equipment and stuff like that. People go in it, so.
Yeah.
You're kind of in a quandary here.
See, that's where we are with the
Wondering.
sheep barn.
I also wonder though, if because it is a historic sector for other sources of money, like, has anybody ever looked into historic preservation funds? Like it would not be the same as restoring that building if it wasn't, like, I think we would have to adhere to historic preservation. Correct. And then it would be.
You think about the money they got from the monitor barns in Richmond, like
Exactly.
huge money for
Exactly.
preservation. It seems like that would be a funding source rather than something like this.
I just think it might be an enormous job.
It's just good to throw the sheep barn up once in a while and remember that it's there and talk about it as well.
Well, I think we should confirm, the town's obligations, right?
Yeah.
And then we keep that top of mind, if it's can't be let go. We appreciate its use now, but our goal is that it's not secure for us, and we don't wanna keep things in there and want to. We have a new building, we will move out of it.
Right. Yes, you cannot lock it.
So we're gonna bring the sheep barn back eventually, but not do it now.
Well, do we have, I mean, do we have a estimate of what it would cost to address that?
The 100,000 was just to shore it up.
Short enough, but not actually.
No,
No, that was much bigger.
and that was years ago.
2021, the town received a report on the condition of the sheep barn, which is a historic structure. The work required to make it secure and stable for the long term was estimated at 100,000. Yeah. This is that's what we had kind of put in for
Mm-hmm.
the blurb about the sheep barn from last year.
So I'm gonna backpedal on what I said about doing the low hanging fruit, the nature project. Which is one of my favorite things. It's like we those 55,000 way too much money.
Too much money?
Too much money. Because they still give very, unless you're gonna put a game camera in front of all 42 bird boxes. We put one in front of one of the duck boxes and we got 5,000 pictures of blackbirds lining up. Oh my gosh. So game cameras have to be very careful, or you're gonna get a lot of junk. And you're gonna get 2 pictures of really big ducks or something, but lots of other things land on top and you trip that shutter over and over and over again, and your phone goes off and go, oh my God. So
Had a colleague tell me today that they sent an intern to put game cameras out and the intern forgot to take GPS for them. I don't like, they're like fishing out, like this and this and
oh no.
Do they have to look at the camera and say like, What, I recognize that tree.
He has to like go out and just like search like grid by grid.
Wow.
They're like fairly expensive.
Well,
How about the
the
sign?
price has to come down.
So
but
you're trying to
still,
argue that we should, sorry, bring it back to
Yeah,
the
we-
nature plot you want. to
I
bring that up
think,
there?
well, no, I think if you did. And you allocated $5,000, plus it says bat boxes, lumber, poles, other things. That's a lot of money for that kind of project, unless somebody had this idea in their head that they were gonna put out 30 or 40 games, you know.
We don't have that one right now.
And if the money's lesser than that, we can just spend stewardship fund,
Yes.
general.
Because that's generally how we've done,
Yeah.
we've done donations, the duck boxes were all built with donations.
About the wayfinding signage. Anybody wanna educate me on that?
That was gonna change quite a bit. I mean, John, I think in the narrative a little bit talks about the trails are changing, we're consolidating trails, probably don't wanna, we wanna implement that as we go.
There was a larger signage project that was studied several years ago, not several, but like 4 years ago. They put together like, oh, we'll do a sign at this intersection and it'll look like this, and the whole thing cost $35,000. And so I think that's what this was trying to support, but our thought was, let's do the signage as we do the improvements, so that we're changing them and making them look what they're supposed to look like, rather than doing it and then having to redo it every time we come through. And a $35,000 project for trail sign it's, I mean, it would take us all next year to do it. You know, it's not the best use of our time.
What would you want to have, I mean, like, but can somebody already design what the signs would look like so that now you can.
There are some, yes, we can use some of the work for sure.
Mhm.
And certainly some of the estimates are, you know, I mean, at least for sourcing, the cost are.
So this wouldn't be appropriate anymore because you're gonna do it over.
I mean, you guys could say it's appropriate and you'd like to see it happen now, and we could work with that, but our goal is to do it as we do the phasing.
Yeah. I think that's the salient point. It's been integrated into the larger master trail plan. And as one of 30 pieces of that Act 250 get implemented, when the trails get touched up, so the signage will be dealt with. And the section by section, because there's phases, there's 4 phases of the trail implementation and section by section. Signs as part of the trail.
I'm trying to think about these asks in terms of like other sources, like what has another source of funding, what doesn't? And I like the signage thing, I'm like, I think we had scouts in town do projects like that, like this seems like a thing where like there's like another pot that. we could-
Well, there's so much, there's been such an improvement in signage too.
Sure,
So it seems like there's an ample amount of science already. And maybe there's a lot, I don't know, I feel like there's more science than at other comparable places now, that it, just as a personal user, casually, there's more science than it used to be.
I think the
It's not as
mud one,
difficult to
yeah,
tell, it's
it's
not
like the Eagle Scout project, and looks awesome. Like, yeah, if you needed.
How did you get? Not enough 8th grade projects, in school or something, right?
They made it optional.
It is.
Oh,
It's
really?
on now. No, it's not, yeah. So. But, okay, so are there other options for funding for the? And which one should we highlight? Because we are getting to 637.
The only one is where we touched on the trail counters, I guess the right of way, 7 parcels, it's not a big one, but.
Right.
Trail counters, that's not the way I did, I mean.
So I mean, this is like, I am a biased person in this situation. Like, this is what I do for work, but I think having trail counters is an amazing resource, and I think like the Conservation Commission would use it beyond outdoor family center, and it could be paired with like a request for county level Strava data. I'm doing that for other counties. Or like even having young students sit out and do like old school, clipboard, right? And also doing that, so I don't know, that's a that's a cool thing that could get used many times in many different networks in town to get a pretty holistic picture of
Oh,
trails.
so it wouldn't be permanent. then, but-
No,
Yeah.
that's usually,
Yeah.
they're usually moved around and
Right.
there's a metric so that like if you have 2 weeks and it's this time of year.
Yeah,
In this area, you multiply it by this to get.
Yeah.
Whatever year it would be.
because I think it's on your list of. consideration.
I was just gonna
I probably.
So the Conservation Commission says 5 trail counters is the ask.
Yeah,
And I didn't know, I mean, I think it's $5 for $10,000. I don't know how much they are,
And that's the-
they really range
2,000.
here, they really range
Um,
here.
but. How long do they need to be in place for them to be effective? Can they be moved around?
They can be moved around, it is like a formula. As John said, I think it gets tricky with places, they are less effective at accurate numbers than places with multiple entry points. So it's why often.
Catamount Farm.
That's hard, so like, I just did this in Kingdom Trails, for example, and we did trail counters in like a bunch of locations, and then we also pulled 5 years of Strava data at the county level. And then like, in the places where there were trail counters, we were basically like, okay, what's the degree of difference between the Strava data and the trail counter data, and then extrapolated from there. I wish I also had undergrads sit out there and like count people, because the thing that happens is like with Strava or with the trail counter, someone rides past it, it's like, oh, I forgot my water bottle, and rides back, and that it doesn't know, it's right, like
Yeah.
it's just counting it like. And Strava batches in 5 and reports on a grid, so you have, that is necessarily an overestimate. So it's good to have multiple count. I don't know, I think we could use them to understand the demand on trails broadly in town, which is probably how it ended up on conservation commission.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking it was too much, when I was thinking like, maybe this is just a combined ask.
Yeah.
So we get 5 and we share. I mean,
Right, I think that could totally.
5 would do pretty well for us too. If we would have put all of them. in that.
Thank you.
Yeah, for, you know, for a period of time, but that would- yeah, pretty good.
We can request county level Strava data regardless of that and get. Max over a 5-year period. It just has to come from. Your office, not me. They won't give it to researchers without like community partner.
Good enough.
Am I correct that like having some of that user data could potentially leverage, future funding? Like if we have a better idea of how many users are there, that's a tool for more grant application?
There are a lot of uses for the numbers, and that's one of them, for sure. You know, the town having an idea of how many people are out there is super important. And I can tell you that the people who sign in are not the amount of people that are out there.
Would be able to do there.
So,
So many people
yeah.
on counters versus signing.
Right, yeah, so, yeah, you know, we would need that, I think, to really show more accurately how many people are out there. For town users, and then, it's, if we do it over time too, if we have it, you know, for years, then we're able to show changes.
Mhm.
Which is, that's another important, you know, thing to, you know, if we're doing trail projects and we know that it works by bringing more people in,
Totally.
then we have a stronger base going forward.
One of the really interesting things that you can do in the work data is like the dip in COVID, and there's like no recovery, and so they were very curious to understand like why people weren't coming back. Well, it's because while the border was closed, Quebec built up a bunch of their trail networks, and people are just not driving, like we can see that like people
Wow.
are not coming from Quebec.
I can go on places here.
Yeah.
There's trails are amazing up there.
Yeah.
Forget Kingdom.
It's trade.
So there you can see tons, and then you can see like e-bike roads, you can get like people over the age of 65, like you get the demographic. You get broad demographic data, like where people are coming from and age and gender.
When you have something sitting.
When you have, or Strava also.
Okay, yeah.
Will provide you with, they won't give you health data, with people's heart rate.
Oh, good, right, it's a little creepy.
It's creepy that they have that.
But they, right, they have your heart rate data. for sure.
It's funny.
So as the Catamount Community Forest Committee, what do we want to recommend?
So this is what I think we've talked about. 35 for the trail improvements, kind of with the idea of it being a match towards the first blah, 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 we already talked about that. 15 for 3 years of invasive treatment. Parking lot improvement, but only if I can't figure out how to get it off the list before the meeting. We said no on the signage, we said maybe projects we can take care of somewhere else. You know, the trail
Right.
counters, right? Put the trail counters on there, but Andrew, let's figure out a way to make sure they're not on both of our lists so that we.
Well, we meet on Wednesday, so I can just ask.
Yeah, great. Great.
And then I would put the sheep barn repair, I would put the sheep barn stabilization on the list, why not? And I just think I'm really curious, it's a really obvious question, is this something the town must do or not?
So does that go to staff to look into for in advance of the October meeting?
Yep.
All right.
We have our thought on next Wednesdays. We can go on to do.
We get to do this again.
Yep. John, I wanted to ask about, trail or just general access to the land easements, that we've discussed, if that's something that's new to discuss too.
You mean for
I
asking
think
for
so.
funds to purchase them?
For easements to the southern parcel and, the other places, the no easement is one that we discussed. There are some different sources of funding for that. Maybe I'm wrong. Bringing that up in front of you.
No, I think that, you know, if the town is gonna support that, and there's gonna be a financial impact. This is and we have a lot of money then, yeah, and that shouldn't be all that expensive, I mean, I don't know what the town lawyer could pay per hour, but that's essentially what we're talking about, right?
I think so. Do you want to explain to the committee the location of the no easement? And then I think you all are aware of the access to the southern parts of the question, too, is that correct? The fact that they're more generally seen, so there's a question of the you've got wetlands to navigate and such, and that's more expensive. And I think it was previously quoted as around 40,000, and you've said that you think it would be much more than that.
You need to build a boardwalk across the whole area there from the running field to the bottom, yeah.
Definitely the boardwalk. We looked at the one that's further north as well. That possible if we can.
Where the donkeys used to go. Right, is that,
You know, you get-
So could you pull up the map so we can,
right, like that's where the,
Oh, Blue House, they got cleaned up in the last few years.
yeah.
So it's on the,
Okay.
it's on the
The
north Wilson side.
Wait a minute, there's a good house?
That little house, they used to have things, right?
So the no's, have offered an easement to access through their land. They have a piece of the north side, or the north side network. So if you went down Governor Chittenden a little bit towards Giovanna, towards the horse farm, there's a turn there's like 3 houses that you go by before you get to that end. And then they own the section of trails on their land. Cabin Run, Gravy Train, and a little bit of Pops and Hot Dog are on there. And so they have agreed to an easement, we shared information with the town now, contact information with them. And now it's time to look at it. But this would ensure access through their land in perpetuity and moving up. So we felt that was value to the town, and that the town is going to own that, and we didn't really see a way that we could own it without it being very complicated.
All right.
If the town would then support the legal requirements. And it's a tiny amount of money for a long-term access, so but it is some. And so if we're looking at this ARPA funding, and if it's only gonna be $2,000 to add on.
Yeah, the money would come from this committee. What project's coming out of this question. But it's another item on the list.
Or is it a conservation commission question? Or no? We do other like. Trails.
That's a good question. I suppose the ERF could go towards it. Off the top of my head, without looking at anything, possibly. That might be another option. My computer is. Happy right now, I don't know about-
This was two places though, on the south
Yeah,
side
there's
and
not-
the north side?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
we can talk about the other one. So the road that goes, along Lucy and Jim's house. The main road, and then the trail that goes around their house.
Right.
Those are not protected.
Right.
And, while they are very happy to have us there now. They are not the only ones that are in control of that. And they have a trust with the family is part of it now, and at some point. That may change. And without permanent access to, without permanent protection to that, we kind of have to look at it like we are going to do. The option, is to try to.
Sorry, it's just.
Extremely high
Fine, everybody knows
quality.
where you are. The other option is to approach Losing Jim and try to, get permanent access. Either only on the road or road and house, but I would suggest that the road is.
It's become more and more of a driveway with their garage.
Yeah.
Also, my memory is that we had that discussion at the time of writing the plan.
Yeah.
It was non-starter.
It's that I've talked to Jeremy about that, and that is a non-starter for him. For now.
Thought he held it back first.
He-
I'll
I'll say that after the end, we talk about it.
Yes. I don't know that, I just, I just
you know-
remember that it was not on the table.
Yeah, I think that we have to look at that as being a tough, that's a much tougher one than. Where the, the actually just said.
So the one you're proposing is not the McCall driveway.
No.
There's one right around,
No,
Yeah, that's what my memory
there,
is.
no, there is
no,
none
no, further,
further this way.
no, the other way.
Past the house?
Yes, there. So if you go up along the edge of that field that you're looking at right there, that's the access.
And that's.
No, I don't think you're right.
That's an
I
easy.
don't think you're right. We've walked it, I've stared at the maps, it's on our maps.
I think, I have the same memory as Alan. I believe you.
Cause we bushwhacked through here one day with you, anyway, we'll figure it out later, but.
That's where the donkeys used to be.
Anyway, that is already, that has an easement, on it, that access. It does not exist yet,
The one to the east of the McCullough house. That you're talking about.
west.
Oh, okay.
That one may also be a wetland.
It's a damp land at the very least. So
It's not been delineated.
it has not, and, not currently delineated, but. And the delineations change based on the year.
And who wrote that?
So
And what-
when we check it, and that hurts, but, I don't, it has a lot of hydric soil, but it doesn't look like a true wetland. But, that should be addressed too. It's a challenging spot to build and not ideal, because you end up having to go, down the trail to the oval and then you cross the road.
Hmm.
As access, it would essentially shut off the flooding.
Yeah.
If we didn't have a way through the center. Which, with less and less winter, that may not be a deal, but, we don't want to just give up that, because that's essentially what we would do if we didn't have some way to get across it.
Which is great for the public to access the land.
Mhm.
It makes that south side much harder to get to.
Yeah.
The approach would be, even to the, the bottom of feel small and that kind of stuff, it's gonna be, more like. Almost on everything.
John, you just want to maybe try to explain where the known units. I don't think that.
Oh, we're not, we're
Kind of
working
working
there.
now.
So if you were to go past the sheep barn. Going towards the horse barn. There's the house that's immediately there, that's up close to the road.
You on the north side.
North side.
North side.
We switched again. We switched
Here on
again.
Governor Chittenden Road, going
Yes.
Going
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
And there's the little red house, or the little house with the red roof. Next to the sheep farm.
She burned. Okay, I'm there.
And now you know,
Yeah,
and
yep.
then there's the Pages, and they own part of the Night Trail.
Mhm.
So that backs up into their land, and then the next house is the Minnows.
That's that right there. So you go down here and there are 2 or 3 houses up.
So that's the Minnow house, and then the trail goes, the cabin run goes right through there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Straight into the power line. Gravy train kind of does like a little thing in here and dips on and off to their property line, up in here. And so they own like that.
And this easement is to have another act, I don't understand the point of this, easement. I get the color.
That's a key way in, for folks to use, especially those neighbors there. And we use it, I mean, it's just a nice way into that, like towards the lookout. You can avoid a lot of the wetter stuff, lower down. And it does take you into the original trail, that was the first trail of the village. So, there's a big job.
It's not a public entry point to the trail network,
Yeah,
like from the road?
So today,
Yeah,
Today
not through their
trails-
yard, but I see what
the
you're saying.
simplest point is today the trails are on their land. They could wake up tomorrow morning and say, stay off my land. And suddenly some of our trail network would evaporate. And, you'd be riding down a trail and suddenly there'd be a sign that says no trespass.
And in fact, the previous
It's just-
owner didn't do exactly that, but got nervous about a race happening on part of that and like asked for the route to be changed.
Right.
The old UCIA line is on there, property.
the drop.
Yeah.
So we're
So-
talking about 2 things. One is that there's the whole right of way, and it sounds like the owners are amenable to having a discussion, and so the money we're talking about would be a
Legal.
lawyer to help that,
Yes.
right? And that's gonna be a single-digit $1,000.
That would be.
Yeah, we need it, the legal fees, and then they would appraise the property too, yes.
They're not asking for anything, though. They're not asking for, compensation for this access.
So are you proposing to the committee that we put in $4,000 or something for $5,000 for that work? With this, is that what you're asking, if the committee is interested in doing?
John had
So it makes sense.
mentioned that as an important thing, I don't know exactly how much money it is.
Yeah,
Um. I don't know if
well, we
anyone else
asked for $5,000 and it costs more than we have to give them this other bucket of money, right? Or decide.
I think 5 is gonna get us close.
And so it's
Certainly
not trail
better than
building,
zero.
it's just the legal and paperwork and everything to get that easy. And then the McCullough one sounds like we're a lot farther
That's-
away from.
We are, and I don't think we should, be putting aside money for something that was probably a much larger number.
And also, I think that you probably need to check if things like WCC territory as a public access to a large parcel of public land.
It could be another option. For that funding.
Absolutely good notes.
Okay,
Good. I think I've got it in my head.
we have 35 for trail improvement, and 15 for invasive. Those are the big ones.
That's
And
right.
then we got the parking lot, we're sending that over to Public Works.
Hopefully, but if not,
Hopefully,
it's
we're
going
gonna
on the
ask them politely, Owl,
list.
and then remember listening, and
Trail
then
county and
Trail counters.
WCC.
they'll see, right, supporting the conservation, that request.
So should I say, hey, we think that the cost for this long term might be 10 grand. You'd like both on conservation commission for a cost 5 and you would request 5, or you want Wilson conservation commission for a cost 5 and we'll share them?
I would
We're gonna do both,
feel
right?
like-
Jamie?
My question would be if they can be shared effectively. And if so,
Just throw it out there.
I'm wondering as the select board member ultimately,
I think it would be really compelling to have two, like, oh, we both asked for this, we figured out how to share them.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
this is $10,000 we'd like. You know, in order to get these things.
The thing that we're not gonna be able to do is say, hey, we wanna assess multiple networks at the same time.
Right.
Right.
Well, we have the
Okay.
same staff person who takes care of that, right?
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah,
should
no, I
be-
mean, I actually was only thinking it's like, well, the first week of October might be a really interesting time, but you can do everything. You can Take turns or different years or do something.
But I mean, how urgent is it with 5 years, you can do 5 Octobers and you're.
Right, yeah.
Go the best in training.
I think the better way to do it is like figure out the correlation with contaminant Strava and then like use it to ground truth. So then you have like a factor that you multiply and then you can get this consistent data and know like, oh, it's off by a count of, right? Like now Bert knows like, oh, the Strava numbers are off by a factor of 4 or whatever it is.
But this is just an ask. So, yeah.
But like that stuff, like methods could be figured out. You know,
I think they can be shared.
sort of.
I think that,
That's the key.
yeah, the conservation commission thinks that's a high priority and they're willing to share. But I will take it out before I say.
I can't see us going like, well, sorry, we've already given you that information. And but splitting them in half doesn't make as much sense as like combined two committees asking for.
Yeah, I
shared
prefer
resources.
to be in one committee, you know. Just then it's organized, it's great, but there's one department that has snow plows. For example. We don't have
Well, we-
two departments for snow plows. So, what?
I started talking to my friend this afternoon, so I'm just saying, it's not a matter of who owns control over them really, because. The staff will have them, right? It's town equipment,
And this committee is made up of different people from different committees.
right?
Unlike. The board, part, not,
I mean,
part public works, which is
Public
not.
Works, yeah.
your committee could
Okay.
also, I don't know if you're ever like, how many people usually just go, I don't think.
So we
they
already-
work for
Oh,
it.
right, like we keep track of, the numbers are already there for the programs that are used, that like, program.
What does it take to
Registration.
operate these? If our committee has them, and we know what to do with them? We
I-
would need somebody
yeah.
skilled from the conservation committee to figure out how to operate them,
Well,
you know?
I mean, you would learn, they're not.
It's an app and
Yeah.
and a small mechanical thing that you can install. That's it.
I think it's a good question.
But yeah,
And then you get the data and you have to do something.
Right, but what can we do? We don't
We
use
just
the
send it to
data.
You love working with data. you
I know, but
spreadsheet
I
the
don't know
crap
the
out of it.
science of like.
We got
capturing
my-
people in the woods.
student, or we
Yeah.
have to make it be a class project and then.
It doesn't feel like it's something that's come up as much in our committee meetings as other things that we have covered a lot more than. cell count. In the last- I don't think we
Probably
talked
more
about it before.
feasible than $100,000 for a sheep farm, that's all I'm saying.
You know, the face sense there. Right, I guess I would pump up more money for the ones and ones, the things that we have the ones for.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, and it's 7 o'clock, we want to. Do you have more questions about what we want, so we can cover the next event? We
Uh,
have,
Are you
well, we have other business to attend to as well.
same time, just leaving it open in case there is anything, I don't,
There's no new volunteer town events on the calendar to approve. Look at that.
No.
So it's good, no. So we will write this up.
I'll-
It needs changing. then.
Yeah,
I'll be,
there's a lot.
I'll be writing it up.
Oh, okay.
I think you guys gave me a good sense of.
Yeah.
What your priorities are, and. I see this as a list that's not 1, 2, 3 in order, it's these are the projects. And
Yeah.
this is how much we expect them to be,
Mhm.
that's the total amount we're asking for.
We'll probably ask for people to prioritize it though, just because
Okay,
I don't think we want to, the select board must on around sit there and go, but you know what, I think so, there's a more important thing, you know.
So should we do that? Should we write them?
I mean, I would, but I mean, Danielle will be at the table or somebody.
Is that
will
what
be
you
at
want?
the-
That was my question, do you want,
I'll be there,
when is,
I think it would be helpful if you
The
gave me a
first?
priority. I agree,
Yeah, and then, you know, if something changes between now and then, you can change it on the fly. It
You all can attend the meeting.
It's October 1st.
Yes.
Okay.
is.
In case anyone is curious, this is gonna be hard to see, but if we did it, if we were like, as a town, we're not like worried about trail counters. We've got like, this is like 4 years of strategy for that.
It's that was the,
It is useful and a lot of people.
You know what it is?
yeah, but I mean, I don't, okay, like my kids, and everything, they use it on their bikes, I'm like a bike ride. and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But if I were to go for a walk in town, I would
wouldn't-
not use it.
Right, so it wouldn't capture you.
Wouldn't capture me either. They're not getting that big.
We do have the.
My heart rate's way too high.
I'd be like, you they walk that slow, that's slow she's walking.
Whenever I do my average speed on rides, I'm like, nobody needs to see that.
But it is like a lot of people, the number of users.
They
that
say
they
that,
have.
or so,
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that, we've covered all our other items?
I think some
Those are
priority
agenda
would be,
items.
would be good.
Oh, the priority.
Going
Right now.
trails,
What is everybody?
invasives, the parking lot and sheep barn seem like outstanding questions, and the trail counters and the easement, within an easement.
I think that's enough of a
Small.
priority, because we really do want to do it,
Okay.
it's like some feeling.
But we have like, we have the definites, we put the money on, like the trail
Mhm.
improvements and the invasive,
Right, it seems like those two are like,
the
yeah,
biggest.
or, yeah, or like,
One and one.
right.
That's why.
Which is why they're one of those.
Right.
Right, but we have narrowed down, we don't have a list of 8 anymore.
Yeah. they could- people can- You can talk to them more, rather than, well, I think I heard about this one thing, 6 months ago, you can go with stuff.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
Do you have a
Okay.
priority enough?
I do have priority enough, and I have my, yeah, I asked from you on sheep barn and. We'll talk to WTC about that. And I'll
Great.
talk to the public works.
And then there's the potential easement on the southern side. For Cabin Run. Northern side.
Did you say something?
I did, but I meant
Sheep
the
barn
other side, Sheep barn side, Cabin Run, each house.
Don't feel bad, everybody going, well, no, I think it's-
Motion to adjourn.
Our next meeting is on. Since for you, Alan.
Yeah.